Scaramouche, 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 Scaramouche. Hey y'all, welcome back. Today we're checking out the moment that saved Queen's career. Look at that shot. That almost looks fake, but it's real, I think.
This performance did not go as smoothly as everybody thought. From the beginning, Bob Geldof didn't want them there. Queen were nearly on the verge of breaking up, and even on the day itself, things went wrong. But somehow, they produced something incredible.
I think we're talking about Live Aid, y'all. Bob Geldof didn't want Queen there? Bob, come on.
It's early 1985, and following the success of Band Aid's Do They Know It's Christmas, Bob Geldof and Midger are starting to discuss the idea of a benefit concert to continue raising awareness and money for the Ethiopian famine.
Y'all be sure to go to David Hartley and like and subscribe. Sometimes when I make these reaction videos, I have regrets about things I say. And this is touching on one regret that I have, and I want to voice it. That regret is about that song, Don't They Know It's Christmas? And I think they were mentioning Ethiopia. And I think I said something like, I don't think people in Ethiopia care that it's Christmas. But actually, they do. There are a lot of Christians in Ethiopia. And I knew that at the time, but I just wasn't thinking. Sometimes I say stuff without thinking. Anyway, apologies for that. Live Aid.
Do They Know It's Christmas was a huge success, and so it seemed only logical to build on that success with a concert. The concert, as we know, would now feature some of the biggest names from pop and rock music. Elton John, Paul McCartney, David Bowie, but one name was missing from this original idea.
Hang on, let me read some of these names. Adam Ant, Boomtown Rats, David Bowie, Phil Collins, Elvis Costello, Dire Straits, Brian Ferry, Elton John, Howard Jones, Nick Kershaw, Alison Moyet, Queen, Sade, Spandau Ballet, Status Quo, Style Council, Sting, U2, Ultravox, Bryan Adams, The Cars, Eric Clapton, Duran Duran, Boy George, Hall & Oates, Mick Jagger, Billy Joel, Waylon Jennings, Judas Priest, Chris Christopherson, Huey Lewis and the News, Robert Plant, Power Station, Pretender, Santana, Paul Simon, Simple Minds, Tears for Fears, Temptations. Wow. This has to be one of the most star-studded concerts ever, right?
Elton John, Paul McCartney, David...
We forgot some. Paul Young, Wham, Thompson Twins, Neil Young,
Bowie,
Stevie Wonder, The Who...
But one name was missing from this original idea: Queen. Promoter Harvey Goldsmith, who was helping to organise the lineup, was familiar with Queen's concert style and suggested that they would be perfect for an early evening slot. Bob Geldof disagreed. He thought Queen were past it, saying, "No, they peaked. I don't think they should play." Goldsmith argued that when a show runs...
Hang on. Bob peaked. Bob shouldn't play. Get out of here, Bob. Actually, I don't mind Bob. Harvey Goldsmith, Bob Geldof, and I were putting Live Aid together and going through potential artists. Being the producer, I understood how slots work and who went where. I was also dealing with the technical side. We were doing 2 shows, London and Philadelphia, and had to stay strictly to time because of the satellite. I thought about it and said for the late afternoon slot, the perfect act would be Queen. I wonder why. Bob said, no, they've peaked. So what if they've peaked? It's Queen, right? I don't think they should play. I said to Bob, I really think they'll be perfect to go on in that 5:30, 6 o'clock type slot. Knowing Freddie as I did, I knew they'd really make a show of it. Bob and I went backwards and forwards. I had to do a lot of persuading. He said, no, we've got other acts we could put on. I dug my heels in and said there's no better act that could do this than Queen. Oh, why? What was it? Why was he saying that? Well, what was it about Queen that was making him say that? Okay. Look, I know about these acts. I know who should play when. When shows open at 12 and go on until 10 at night, there's always a lull in proceedings around that slot in the afternoon. So you need someone really cool who can just lift it up. Oh. That's become a really important slot in all festivals of that type. Okay, so it was because Queen could bring the energy, and they knew how to do it. I agree.
I don't think they should play. Goldsmith argued that when a show runs all day, by the afternoon things start to lull. You get an afternoon dip, and you need a classic band to fill that slot. Geldof relented. Geldof had this vision of the show being something immense, But as no one had done this kind of thing before, it took some persuasion to get big artists involved. So even if you wanted them, it wasn't guaranteed that Queen would perform. The whole thing was a nightmare to arrange. He'd call up Elton John, tell him David Bowie had agreed to perform, and then he'd call up David Bowie, ask him to perform, saying that Elton John had agreed.
That's some entertainment bullshit. It happens all the time. Bunch of liars in this industry, y'all. Motherfuckers. Some of the most successful people in the entertainment industry, particularly the music industry, are not that talented, but they're really good bullshit. Very, very talented, shameless bullshit. Not musically talented, talented in bullshit. No shame. Okay, that's my rant. Moving on.
The truth was that it looked unlikely that Queen were going to perform. If you've seen the film Bohemian Rhapsody, you might have seen that Queen had split up by this point. But in reality, things were just going really badly. Our personal relationships had all suffered. Freddie had stepped so far away that I thought we might not get him back. It's hard to believe, but by the mid-80s, Queen were not the highly respected band that we all know today. A year earlier, they'd performed in apartheid South Africa, despite the UN enforcing a ban on artists performing there, and they'd stopped touring the US because their recent music had fallen out of fashion. Classic rock bands were starting to be sidelined for the era of MTV, and their video for I Want to Break Free, which is probably their most famous video over here in the UK, got pulled in the US because audiences didn't get it. By the summer
I think they got it. I think they just didn't like it. I think that Bible Belt said, there's a man dressing like a woman? Well, I don't get that. I just don't get that. I think that's what they meant by it. We don't get it. You know what I mean? They got it. They didn't want to get it.
UK got pulled in the US because audiences didn't get it. By the summer of 1985, with Live Aid just around the corner, Queen were in need of a break. They'd just come off a world tour and were looking to be heading separate ways. The last thing they needed was some impossible to put together spectacle that could quite easily go so horribly wrong.
And in fact, it took us quite a long time to commit to doing it, because we really wanted to see, who else was going to do it, and also, was it going to work? Would you get all these groups to go on for 20 minutes and off,
And of course, they had no idea that Live Aid would work so well for them. They had every reason to suspect that being thrown in the middle of a long day of bands playing one after another could have confirmed everyone's suspicion that Queen were indeed past it. And they couldn't just turn up and play a song or two, they'd have to come back together from the verge of breaking up to create a unique 20-minute set. Wow. It was Freddie that was the most reluctant to perform. He was preparing to release his first solo album, Mr. Bad Guy, and was looking to spend even less time working with Queen. Whilst the other three gradually came round to the idea, it was Brian who finally persuaded Freddie.
I didn't know they were split up, basically. It's hard to think of them as being unrespected, but I guess not enough time had passed. They were just totally uncool at the time.
Did Freddie. If it all goes well, and if we wake up the next day having not been there, we'd regret it. Queen were now on board, uncertain of what lay ahead, and some of the problems on the way might not have signalled something good. One positive for Queen was that their slump in popularity meant that they took this opportunity seriously. Some artists saw it as an opportunity to promote their latest music, but Queen knew that they had an audience of 1 billion people, and this could be a career-defining moment. They had at most a 20-minute slot for their set, and went about preparing a tightly choreographed set list of their biggest hits condensed into this short slot.
20 minutes. That makes sense. The bands that were out there promoting their latest record were probably just playing the new stuff, and maybe like their old hit at the end. But Queen were like, greatest hits, round them up.
The week before the concert, they booked out a London theatre and spent each day meticulously playing through the set, perfecting the timing, moving songs around, trying different songs until they had a perfect 20-minute set, with minimal transition and a small amount of time for Freddie's crowd work. In order to keep
Wow. So they rehearsed this set for a week. No wonder it worked, right? The other bands were probably like, oh, we'll play this and this and this. This song's about 3 minutes, and then this song's about 4. Like, we'll do this and this. We rehearse, we play all the time, so we got this. But Queen was like, no, this has to be perfect.
Minimal transition and a small amount of time for Freddie's crowd work. In order to keep to the strict timing, Geldof used the traffic light system for the performers on stage. If the light turned red, your sound was cut, and you were taken off stage to allow the next act to perform.
Oh,
So, despite all the
That's
chaos
not cool.
leading up to the event, everything was set for Queen to deliver a unique performance on this one-off occasion. The day of the performance came, and the worst possible problem had arisen. Back in 1975, Freddie Mercury had started to develop vocal nodules. He chose not to have the surgery because he feared it would affect his voice. The consequence of this, though, was that he needed to take even greater care than usual, and occasionally the nodules would flare up, making it difficult, if not impossible, to sing. When he woke up on the morning of Live Aid, just such an occasion had occurred. A doctor advised him not to sing, but Freddie went through with the performance anyway, resting his voice throughout the morning. The lack of soundcheck also came to...
Wow. Yo, those vocal nodules are no joke. So for those of you that don't know, whenever a singer doesn't warm up properly, which is most rock singers, they just push, like, I don't think you could warm up enough to push the voice as much as a lot of rock singers do. But little flare-ups, little tiny little breaks in the vocal cords happen. Scar tissue develops on that. And you'd get little little knobs of scar tissue, and it makes it like raspy, or like the cords don't vibrate against each other correctly or the same way, because it's like scarred up, and it's painful too. I think Elton John had the nodules removed. He had the surgery. I didn't know Freddie had that issue. Wow, that's scary.
Anyway, resting his voice throughout the morning. The lack of soundcheck also came to Queen's favour, as Freddie didn't need to sing, but they did have a little trick up their sleeve, as Brian May later remembered. We didn't have a soundcheck, but we sent our brilliant engineer to check the system, so he set all the limiters for us. We were louder than anyone else.
Oh, nice.
I remember being in the audience and hearing the first few acts, thinking I could hardly hear them. You've got to overwhelm the crowd in a stadium. When Queen came on stage, they were ready and louder than everyone else.
That's probably a big part of why the audience responded so well. If you notice, if you ever go to a big rock show, the opening band the volume will be maybe at a 5, and then if there's another band, they'll boost it up to a 7, and then when the feature band starts playing, they'll get it up to like a 9, and then towards the end of the show, they'll get it up to a 10, as loud as it'll go. Good technique. Psychological.
When Queen came on stage, they were ready and louder than everyone else. The four of them walk on stage, and from the first moment it's clear that they are in their element. They're pushed for time, but Freddie still makes time to greet the audience and get them fired up.
That's awesome.
Remember, at this point, Queen are a bit of a has-been. They're playing to a crowd who are not there to specifically see them. But Freddie in particular opens himself up to every single person. The show begins with a melancholic Bohemian Rhapsody, but really it's more like an anthem for this uncertain crowd. Then they go straight into Radio Gaga. This for me is when things really get going. Freddie is just the center of the universe at this point. Brian May later said, I remember thinking, oh great, they've picked it up. And then I thought, this is not a Queen audience. This is a general audience who've bought tickets before they even knew we were on the bill. And they all did it. How did they know? Nobody told them to do it. In an instant, Queen had gone from the band no one came to see to looking like they were born to be on this stage. Some people were just born to perform, and Freddie Mercury was one of them. As the set continues, it becomes clear that this is more than just a 20-minute string of hits, but instead a single performance with an arc running through it.
Yo, the confidence he has when he runs on stage. That starts it all. That's really all you want as an audience member. Someone who goes up on stage and looks confident. They're not afraid. Freddie took that whole audience in his hands. He's like, guys, this is it. And then when he's singing that Radio Gaga, the whole crowd is in it. Look at all these hands moving with him. Amazing.
In an instant, Queen had gone from the band no one came to see to looking like they were born to be on this stage. Some people were just born to perform, and Freddie Mercury was one of them. As the set continues, it becomes clear that this is more than just a 20-minute string of hits, but instead a single performance with an arc running through it. It begins calm and pensive with Bohemian Rhapsody, but by its peak with Hammer to Fall and Crazy Little Thing Called Love, there's a rise in energy which then finishes with the more anthemic We Will Rock You and We Are the Champions. In every single song and at every single moment...
Wait, what did it end with? I'm sorry, I was looking at the crowd. We Will Rock You.
And We Are the Champions.
Oh, We Are the Champions. Okay, yeah. I mean, gosh. Yeah.
In every single song and at every single moment, they are perfectly connected to the audience. Everyone in the stadium, but also everyone at home.
This next song is only dedicated to beautiful people here tonight. It means all of you. Thank you for coming along.
Queen haven't just played a selection of hits, but have instead taken the audience on a journey over the course of the 20 minutes.
And in the end, like, it ended up like as a mini show in a way, which was, and obviously it worked, because it did actually, at that point in the afternoon, it really did pick it up, you know.
Off stage, the atmosphere was incredible. Queen had clearly stolen the show. Geldof ran back to the TV studio and demanded that everyone donate.
Right, I mean, that's very important. There is not enough money coming in, and all these people are not playing for the good of their health. They're playing for the good of other people's health. So get your money out now.
And of course, he did later admit that Queen were the best band of the day.
They played the best, they had the best sound, they used their 17 minutes or whatever to the best. I mean, they understood the idea exactly.
But as they came off stage, Brian May wasn't aware of the significance of what had just happened. It was only years later, when the magic of that performance was still around.
Wow. Bob got it. Yeah. It was like a mini show with an arc. Yeah, I bet the other bands didn't do that. Wow, amazing.
Sound, they used their 17 minutes or whatever to the best. I mean, they understood the idea exactly.
But as they came off stage, Brian May wasn't aware of the significance of what had just happened. It was only years later, when the magic of that performance was still around, that it was clear what that performance meant.
If someone had asked me as I came off stage, you know, was that the greatest performance of your life? I would say, probably not. But looking back, I can kind of see that everything was the way it was meant to be. I think it was one of our finest hours, definitely one of Freddie's finest hours.
It was not only a success for Queen, but the entire event as well.
And it was a great moment. It really was an amazing moment, because Geldof had pulled it off, and there was the audience packed, and this thing was actually happening. And as we know, the money actually did get to Africa, and we all felt very proud to be part of that. It was a unique moment in time, Live Aid. I don't think there's ever been anything quite like that.
Live Aid not only did so much good for those in need, but it also became the moment that took Queen from the brink of breaking up to having perhaps the greatest legacy of any band.
But I think it was the greatest day of our lives, even though we played only a very small part. It's the thing I'll remember above all in our career. It's an amazing day.
It sort of injected some new fuel into our bodies, you know.
We had actually planned on taking the rest of that year off completely.
A few weeks later, actually, Freddie was on the phone and he wanted to go back in the studio and do some more recording.
If you enjoyed this video, you might enjoy my new series over on Patreon. Videos just like this, but with more analytical, historical, and philosophical discussions about music. The first video about Queen at Live Aid is up now, and it's also a great way to support the channel, especially as I'm battling copyright claims for every video that I make.
Oh, I bet.
Go to patreon.com/David Hartley or click the link in the description. Thank you.
Wow, y'all be sure to go to David Hartley and like and subscribe, and check out his Patreon. I didn't know, I didn't know that was so important for Queen. I didn't know they were about to break up, or essentially had broken up. And the success of that show got them back in the studio. Yeah, looking back on it, I remember I saw the film, the Queen film, was it called Bohemian Rhapsody? I remember seeing that, and I was surprised that they spent so much of the film on that Live Aid performance, but now I get it. I see why. Amazing. And he did it all with vocal nodules. Wow. Vocal cord nodules. Images. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Those little bits. Okay, it looks like they always happen in about the same spot. I guess that's where the chords vibrate together the most, and it just, like, creates... Oh, that's a bad one. Yeah, probably can't show that. Pretty disgusting, actually. Looks painful. Y'all be sure to go to David Hartley and like and subscribe. maybe buy a Queen album for old time's sake. Support the surviving members. Well, y'all, I'd like to thank my patrons. I'd like to thank my Buy Me a Coffee folks. Thank y'all for watching this with me, and I'll see y'all next time.